when I entered the world of business, but before we even get to advertising, first of all, just some facts. I was one of 4 women in a class of 300 people at Columbia Business School back in 1970. So our numbers were so tiny, sort of to begin with. I then went to interview at all these consumer goods companies and agencies, and there were no women. I mean, you walked into Colgate, you walked into Clairol, maybe you walked into Lever Brothers. Maybe there were 1 or 2 women who were assistant product managers. But for all intents and purposes, it was all men. And so you sort of walked in, you were the only woman in the room. When I joined Ogilvy, all the women who were in professional positions had started as secretaries. Absolutely. I mean, they were successful, they were doing well, but there was no question about how they had worked their way up through the agency. So the fact that I came in with an MBA from the outside and I had been a client was very unusual. The other thing that I have to keep reminding myself of is now when I walk into a room with clients and agency people, it's usually 50-50. When I started in this business, I was always the only woman in the room. And there would come this inevitable moment over the course of a meeting where somewhere like 20 minutes in, someone would turn to me and go, "Well, Shelly, what do women think?" And it was absurd because I was talking on behalf of all women in the country and sometimes in the world. But the truth was that most of what we were selling was to women. And so I probably had a better idea of what would work than others. And rather than being discriminated against, I felt extremely powerful because of this unique position that I held. So life moves on. There are more and more women. There are more and more women clients. There are women who were CEOs of Fortune 50 companies, which I never would have imagined when I started out in this business. And yet, when you look at the senior ranks of agency people, there are so few women still. When you look at the most senior creative people, there are so few women still. And that has to give you pause and say, why is that happening? And I really don't know the answer to that question. And maybe it's not even important. The important thing is that we just keep pushing, that we're conscious of it, that we're always thinking about it, that we're always asking what more can we do, that it bothers us that there aren't more women in the senior management of a particular agency or company, and think about what are the steps that we can take. There are talented women out there. There are women of enormous capability. So we just have to find them, support them, push them, move them, and get them into positions of senior management.